Sultan Mehmed II rode along the dusty road toward the town of Cherven, his army marching in perfect synchrony behind him. The weight of his conquest rested heavily on his shoulders as he prepared for the imminent clash with Prince Vlad III of Wallachia, the so-called Impaler. The winds of the Balkans whispered of a great struggle, and Mehmed knew that victory was far from guaranteed. His forces were strong, yet the opposition, led by Vlad, was relentless and brutal. As they approached Chervon, the Sultan's thoughts were consumed with the battle ahead. But a strange unease began to stir within him. The town was eerily quiet, an unsettling calm that made his soldiers uneasy. The cries of civilians, the rattle of weapons, and the hum of distant voices did not reach his ears as they should have. Something was wrong. The town of Cherven lay before him, its ancient stone fortress now a shadow of its former glory. It was once a proud center of Bulgarian power, but now it had become a symbol of defiance to the Ottoman Empire. Mehmed's forces had swept through the region with swift precision, forcing the population into submission. But the town's loyalty to Vlad had made it a prime target for retribution. As he rode into the town square, the sight that greeted him stopped him cold. Ottoman soldiers, loyal to the Sultan but seemingly acting with too much zeal, were rounding up the civilian population, men, women, and children, preparing them for execution. The stench of fear hung thick in the air as families huddled together, their eyes wide with terror. The soldiers, armed with swords and scimitars, seemed ready to carry out their orders without hesitation. Mehmed's heart clenched with disgust. He understood the necessity of enforcing order, but this was not the way of the empire he envisioned. These were innocent lives, civilians who had no part in the politics of war. He had hoped for a swift conquest, not the butchery of the innocent. And then, amidst the chaos, he saw her. She was standing at the center of the square, her back straight, her face filled with a quiet resolve. Her eyes were locked onto the Ottoman soldiers, her hands raised in defiance, as if to challenge fate itself. She was no ordinary woman. Her clothes were simple, but there was a certain nobility in the way she carried herself, as though she had the strength of 1,000 men. She was beautiful, but it was her courage that held Mehmed's attention. The soldiers seemed to hesitate as she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension like a sharp blade.
You may take my life, but you will not break my spirit.
Mehmed watched in stunned silence as the soldiers, uncertain, exchanged glances. They were about to carry out their orders, but the woman's bravery in the face of certain death shook them. The Sultan's instincts told him to intervene, to stop the slaughter, to save this woman who displayed such raw courage. But in that moment, the reality of war struck him. He was a conqueror, a ruler, and even his authority had limits. The soldiers, bound by duty, would not listen to his commands. Not here, not now. And so, despite his deep desire to protect her, he did nothing. With a swift motion, the executioners advanced. The woman did not flinch. Instead, she closed her eyes as though accepting the fate that awaited her. But her chin remained raised, proud, unyielding. Mehmed felt a pang of guilt, a dark feeling that settled in his chest. He had failed her, and there was nothing he could do to change it. The soldiers took her life swiftly, and her body crumpled to the ground, lifeless but dignified in her final moments. Mehmed's gaze lingered on her, and for a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. As he turned away from the scene, his eyes were drawn to something gleaming on the ground, a small, intricately designed key. It lay amidst the dust, half hidden beneath the fallen woman's body, as though it had been dropped carelessly in the wake of her execution. Mehmed's heart skipped a beat. There was something about this key, its ornate design, the way it seemed to call out to him, that struck him as significant. Without thinking, Mehmed bent down and retrieved the key, his fingers brushing against the cold metal. It felt heavier than it should have, as though it carried the weight of fate itself. He stared at it for a long moment, wondering what it could possibly mean. But in that instant he knew. The key was not merely a trinket. It was a symbol, a reminder of the choices he had made and the path he had chosen. He tucked it into his belt, feeling the strange weight of it against his side. Little did he know, the key would come to haunt him. It would not be long before the curse of his decision would reveal itself. In the coming months, as Mehmed led his armies through the Balkans, the key would be a constant, unsettling presence, an omen that foretold the misfortune and the battles that awaited him.